It's an interesting class. It's going to be a little bit different because this is where I'll introduce you to your Lab 1 exercise and provide your Lab 1 assignment, and then you are to work on the lab virtually. Okay, so we're not meeting on campus. You're here on the Zoom session. So we'll conduct the lab. So let's show you what is in store. This is what the Advanced Computer Forensics Lab looks like. It's in Building 98 C301. And so instead of us physically being in this room this evening, you're going to virtually perform the lab. And so what will happen is a little bit later, I'll give you a link to a video of me doing the lab, okay, of me performing the steps, me doing all the steps necessary to perform a data acquisition of the suspect's uh, physical storage device. After you watch that, and after you've got the information from this PowerPoint slide here, you will then write a report as if you were the one doing the steps instead of me. Okay. So it's nice to be there hands-on and actually handle the equipment yourself. But since this class is listed as an online class and not face-to-face, and numerous people had basically protested the idea of uh, not handling this online. So we're going to handle it online. And so the way to do that is you'll watch me do the lab, then you write the report as if you're doing the task that I do. So as I go through this material tonight, anytime you have any questions or anything about what I'm saying, maybe you didn't hear me or maybe I didn't say something clearly, please interject and ask your questions because it's imperative that you understand what your tasks are to do so that you can write your report properly. So again, this is at the doorway of the lab looking into the classroom. You can see there's a number of workstations around. And here is, as you first come in the doorway, of course, the door is locked. And as I allow people into the lab, first thing someone would do would be sign the logbook. And when you leave the lab, you would sign the logbook saying that you've left. Okay. And of course, everything that we do in forensics, we have to document it clearly. Okay. So you'll maintain your logbook of every task that you do, but then that is not your report. You have to write a formal report. So after you have signed in to the logbook, entering the lab, and this is not your own logbook, you maintain your own. This is the lab log. You see there's items set up around for each workstation. I'll show you a little bit more about what that is. But each team will be assigned a workstation. And yes, you will be assigned the teams. I've got the teams posted in a couple minutes. I'll show you what that is a little bit later. There's 8 teams. And each team has a workstation. There's a box that contains the right blocking equipment. You'll also have another couple of pieces of information. You'll have a combination lock, and you will have shown underneath here, it's kind of hard to see, but an evidence bag, which is a clear plastic bag. And that is where, after you've completed the data acquisition and validated your MD5 and SHA-1 hash values, you'll place the suspect's storage device, you'll unhook it from your right blocking equipment, put it in the evidence bag, which you will have already documented the contents of that on the bag itself. Remove the adhesive label and seal the bag, and then place that bag in an evidence locker along with your chain of custody form. Chain of custody form would be outside of the evidence bag because the evidence bag is sealed, and if you open the seal, it voids the bag. It's a one-time use seal on the bag. Okay, so again, looking at the lab itself. Here's one workstation for team 1, team 2, team 3. If we look around further, it'll be team 4, team 5, team 6, team 7, then team 8 could be back over here. These tables in the middle, that's for workbench for opening up equipment, working on that, removing devices if you need to. Also, this would be where you would store your backpacks or whatever devices you bring with you, other items you bring with you into the lab. You don't carry anything unnecessary over to the workstations. You want to keep that area as pristine as you can. Okay, a nice clean surface to work on. Okay, so I mentioned the evidence lockers. There are one for each team. They're labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right. The one over here on the bottom left is one that I use for my own self, so for my stuff, but the other teams would have these. Okay. Here is a picture of one of the physical storage devices. So when you are doing the lab yourself, you can use this picture, and I've got some of a picture like this available from Canvas for you to pull off of it to show your physical storage device. Okay. Now, the reason when you take a picture of a physical storage device, you want to make sure the picture is close enough, close up enough that you can read all of the writing clearly. Don't have a picture that was made 10, 15, 20 feet away where you can't read the information on it. Okay. And you can see clearly there's the make. It's a Western Digital. Here's the model. It's a WD200. And here's the serial number listed here. Of course, when you identify stuff, at a minimum, you always have to list the make, model, and serial number. You'll be using a Tableau write blocker. This is an example of the exact ones we use in the classroom. It's a Tableau Forensics. This is a SATA IDE bridge. So depends on the type of physical storage device you would have at your workstation, whether it's a SATA device or whether it's an IDE. Of course, in the lab, or in this instance, this semester, you'll watch a video of me doing it, and whatever type I'm using, that's what you'll use. But let's talk about the differences in those. But first, a little bit of information about the write blocker itself. The on-off switch is up here at the top. And there's a place here to plug the power in. There'll be a power cord that connects the write blocker to a wall power outlet. Okay. So you would plug the unit into the wall. You would connect a cable from the suspect's physical storage device into the write blocker. And it depends on whether would have a SATA connection or an IDE. Okay. And the ports are for both over here. Okay. And then after you've connected the suspect's physical storage device and you've powered the unit into the wall, you would then turn the power on. That will then send power to the suspect's physical storage device, and you'll hear it power up. You'll hear the platter start to spin. You'll hear some movement, some clicking noises of the read-write arms positioning themselves. You'll also see these lights come on. Some of them will illuminate. Of course, the power light, it will detect whether you have an IDE or a SATA device, whether it's plugged into the host or not. And then you really importantly, you want to make sure the write block light is illuminated. Okay, don't ever attach the write blocker to the forensics workstation until you verify that write blocking was enabled. So as I mentioned, you do this step. You first attach the suspect's physical storage device to the write blocker. You plug the write blocker into the wall, then you turn the power on. You've not yet connected the write blocker to your forensics workstation. You verify the write block light becomes illuminated. Okay. Now, if that's correct and proper, you can power it back off. You can then plug it into the forensic workstation using some of these ports here. Here's a USB 2.0, a FireWire, a couple different types of FireWire. We want to use the fastest option that's available to you on the workstation that you have. Okay. Once you've connected it into your forensics workstation, you can power it back on. This time, these lights could come on. The power would detect the proper type of interface. Host should be detected. Write block should be eliminated. And then once you start the bitstream imaging process from your software, an activity light should flicker as activity as reading occurs from the suspect's device. Now, this is what the IDE cabling configuration would look like. Over here is SATA. So let's talk about the IDE. This shows the power connected to the write blocker unit. There's two cables that connect the suspect's physical storage device to the write blocker. One is the data cable. For IDE, it's a relatively wide ribbon cable. And then you have a power connector cable that connects over here. Now, if you look closely at this, you'll see there's a red stripe on the edge of the ribbon cable. It's only on one edge, and that goes closest to the power connector. Another thing that's very important to notice are these plastic tabs. That's what you use to remove the cable from the connector from the devices. These tabs should be on the upper side. I'll just talk more about that in a minute. It's very important that you have it that way. With the label on the storage device up, the label on the right blocker up, these white tabs should be up. Okay. Now, this blue cable would represent the connector from the right blocker to the forensics workstation. So that's IDE configuration. SATA is a little bit easier. So there's still two cables from the suspect's physical storage device to the right blocker, but the data cable is much smaller and the connector is easier to deal with. It's got an L-shaped connector on it. It only fits one way, so you know you've got it the right way when it plugs in and fits. Word of caution, more about this IDE than the SATA. There's a right way and a wrong way to connect it. I mentioned a minute ago, those tabs should be put up. So this is the wrong way. The tab should be facing upward, not downward. The wrong way is showing it with it downward. Here, the label is up on the device. The label is up on the right blocker. It's plugged in. Appears to be look like it's working correctly, but it's not. This kind of connector can ruin the suspect's disk drive. In other words, this can fry the disk controller, the electronics board on the bottom of the suspect's physical storage device. So don't ever do this. I'd be extremely angry if you did this in a lab situation. You see the red stripe is still over here on this side if you can make it out. But the problem is with the tabs down, the connectors have been reversed. You see one side's blue and one side's black. They've reversed that. Here the blue is next to the right blocker. Here it's next to the device, the storage device. By turning that and flipping it upside down, it still fits. It fits the connectors properly, but it will ruin the suspect's physical storage device. This is a really bad thing. This is the proper way to connect it. The labels are up on the device and the right blocker, and the tabs are shown upright and on the top of the ribbon cable. Okay. That's the correct way to connect it. Now, when you disconnect this, you be very careful. Do not pull on the ribbon cable here, or do not pull on it at the edge. That would pull the connector off the end of the ribbon cable. Also, the pins on the storage device and the pins on the right blocker are very delicate, tiny little pins. So you grip the white plastic tabs on the cable and very gently tug a little bit on this side, then tug a little bit on this side, and gently work this thing loose so that you're careful not to bend the pins on the storage device or to bend the pins on the right blocking device. Okay. Now, you'll also have to have your own chain of custody form. You can find a chain of custody form sample off the internet. Google is your friend. There's two main types of chain of custody form. There's the single item chain of custody form, which is shown here, and there's a multi-item chain of custody form. And I've lectured last week that we want to make sure that we use a single item chain of custody form. Okay. Clearly identify the evidence items. Okay, so at a minimum, put the make, model, and serial number. So here's a place for the manufacturer. That's the make. Here's the model. Here's the serial number. So at a minimum, list that. But you also have to list other information as well. Some fields might not be applicable depending on the type of form you download, because all types of evidence have to have, original evidence has to have chain of custody forms, not just computer equipment or digital electronic items. Okay. So the case name, you give it something reasonable once you read the case story for this evening. The reason why you're obtaining it. Each team, you'll make up your case number. You might call it Lab 1. You might choose some other case number for this. whatever item number the evidence is. I suspect this will be your item number one, probably your first piece of evidence because it's the only one you'll have. Again, make, model, serial number, a little bit about who the owner was. That should be the suspect. What the description is of this item, this physical storage device. Other information you might need to put there, you might find it not necessary. Whoever the agent is who initiated the chain of custody form, don't say team number something, give me an individual's name. And then, your forensic agent information, again, it's an individual, not the team number. And down here is where you'll maintain the chain of custody information. So this is where one person releases the evidence item to another and when it changes hands. So initially, you will receive the evidence from me. So I will have to release this to you. So you'll put the date and time, print my name, it says name and title, print my name here, and then I should sign it here. Okay. Someone on your team will be the one receiving it. Don't say it's received by team number something. No, I need an individual name. Now, when you're done with this and you're ready to place the evidence back into the evidence locker, well, I'm the one that owns the evidence locker. So you would then release it back to me. I would then be the one who received it. If you let the evidence change hands among different team members, then you would have to make sure that you pass that back and forth. Now, it's not a requirement that you pass it to other team members, but what is a requirement is there's no gaps in here. So if I release it to one team member, then that team member then has to release it either to another team member or back to me. Okay, you can't have team member A receive it and then team member B release it to me unless you've had an exchange from team member A to team member B. Okay, so I think you can figure all that out, but that's the chain of custody form. You also need to make sure it has a serial number on it. I don't see one on this one. The one you download from the internet might not have it. If not, you need to write a serial number on there. And then in your report, you must document all this information to tie everything together. So your report would have to list the make, model, and serial number of the evidence. It would also have to list the serial number of the chain of custody form and the serial number of an evidence bag. And I'll show you what that looks like next. Okay. So again, this is the part over here I talked about the chain of custody. Document when the evidence is passed from one person to another. So I gave you the suspect's device. I'll release it to you. When you finish, you return it to the evidence locker, which I own the evidence locker, so you're releasing it back to me. So we got to have printed names and signatures and dates and times. This is an example of an evidence bag. Now, the evidence bag is just clear plastic. I have it laying on a manila envelope because if I laid it on the dark surface of the desk, you couldn't read the writing on it. Okay. But as you can see, there's information at the top, similar to the chain of custody form, where you have to list information that indicates what are the contents of this evidence bag. Okay. This should be a single item evidence bag. The only thing that would go in there would be the suspect's physical storage device. So list what that is. You might find some fields of information on the bag that are not applicable to you because these bags are used for all kinds of purposes. If law enforcement stops a drug dealer and confiscates their cell phone and a bunch of cash, well, they'll put the cash in an evidence bag and indicate what the amount was. They'll put the phone in a different bag. So anyway, list what the evidence items are on the fields that are applicable. Now, also shown on the evidence bag is a chain of custody form portion, and I think that makes no sense at all. Don't fill this bottom part out. It makes no sense. And the reason for it, the bag has an adhesive label, and you fold the flap over and seal the bag. Once you seal it, it's sealed for one time. I mean, you put the evidence in the bag, you peel off the paper, which exposes the adhesive strip. You fold the flap over and seals the bag. If the bag is opened, then that seal is broken and the word void appears up here. And the bag is no good at this point. So it makes no sense putting chain of custody because this has to follow the evidence all the way. So if you put evidence in there and sealed it in the bag, say a law enforcement officer collected this at the scene, and then it comes back to the lab, and then you as a forensic examiner checks out the piece of evidence, you now have custody of it. You have to open the bag to get the evidence item out. Well, once you open the bag, that voids that bag. And then you just lost this chain of custody information. You have to put it in a new bag going forward. Well, that new bag wouldn't have the names and signatures of the original bag. So it makes no sense. So maintain the chain of custody on a separate form than the evidence bag. And do not put the chain of custody form in the evidence bag. That would be just as bad as sealing the bag. You seal the bag again, you can't get the form out. So when you place your evidence bag in the evidence locker, well, here, here, make sure you place the evidence bag in there and the chain of custody form on top of the evidence bag. Chain of custody form needs to accompany the evidence at all times, but don't seal it up in that one-time use evidence bag. All right. Any questions or comments about any of this? Again, please shout them out at me because you're going to have to write your report as if you're doing all these things. Now, thinking about the report that you write, it's a formal forensics report. And I've mentioned before, this is the structure that works very well for a forensics report. It turns out there is no required format for the courts, but I found this structure works very, very, very well. So you will have a cover page on your report, just something nice that explains what this report's all about, just the case number maybe and the team number, the names of the people on the team, something like that. Just maybe the date, but just something very simple for a cover page. That will be followed by a cover letter. Cover letter is a formal business letter. Okay. A formal business letter must be written in either block or modified block style. If you don't know what those styles are, look it up. Okay, Google's your friend. But it needs to be a formal letter. Now, this cover letter will be written from you and written to the person that hired you to do this function. That would be me. Okay. And in that cover letter, you're basically saying that you were hired to conduct this forensic data acquisition regarding this case name. The report requested is attached to this letter. Okay. And then you also make a comment in this letter that for additional details regarding your qualifications, please refer to your appendix located in Appendix A, or if you only have one appendix, just in the appendix. And then at the bottom of the letter, you put sincerely or best regards or have whatever salutation you put there and put your printed name and your signature. You're required by law to include your signature in a forensics report, and this is a natural place to sign at the bottom of a letter. You're also required by law to include your resume. Okay, so this is a natural way to describe where that is. In the cover letter, your resume is located in the appendix. Okay. Usually in a forensics report, the next thing following the cover letter would be a table of contents. Now for lab one, you don't need to use a table of contents. Okay. Okay. The reason for that, well, I'll continue on with that in a minute. And following the table of contents, you would normally put a summary of your findings. But in this lab, you're not doing any analysis, so you're not going to have any findings. You're simply going to write about the task you perform. Okay. So what I'm getting at here is these two items don't need to be in your lab one report. Lab one is a data acquisition only. You're not doing any analysis. So there's no need for a table of contents or a summary. You're not doing any analysis in lab one, so there are no findings to summarize. Instead, you would write about your task that you perform. Now, normally in a forensics report, in the body of the report, you have the different items of evidence that you find. So let's say you were doing data analysis, not just tonight where you're doing data acquisition, but suppose you had done data analysis and you found 3 items of evidence regarding intellectual property theft. You found 5 items of evidence regarding explosives. and you found 4 items of evidence regarding auto theft. Well, then in the summary, you'd say we found 3 items of evidence regarding intellectual property theft, and those items are located on pages 4, 5, and 4 through 9 on the report. And we found the next paragraph, you might in the summary, you might say we found 3 items of evidence regarding explosives, and that information is located on page 10 through 12 of the report. And then the next paragraph in the summary say we found 4 items of evidence regarding auto theft, and those items are located on page 14 through 20 of the report. Then in the body of the report, you'd have those different items laid out. The body of the report should be written in paragraph form, full sentences in paragraph form, with pictures included to support the words that you have written. Okay, so the body report should describe the task you performed in your data acquisition. That's this lab. So normally you would talk about your findings, but in this lab you don't have any findings. You're just doing data acquisition. So make sure to link everything to your report. Document the storage device. At a minimum, put the make, model, and serial number out there. Document the evidence bag number in which you place the evidence. When done, indicate the chain of custody form number and document the MD5 and SHA-1 hash values. Now, by the way, I didn't mention this, but on the evidence bag, I should have mentioned it. A couple of things here. There's a serial number right there on the evidence bag. It's also located here. And there's a perforation right across here. Now, the reason for this perforation is the top part is a receipt. You tear that off. You keep this for your records, and then that leaves a flap up here. Then on the back of the bag, you remove the paper strip across the adhesive area and fold this flap over, sealing the bag. Okay. But again, tear off the receipt from the top. Now, this is your serial number. That would need to be indicated in your report. Okay. That's the serial number of the evidence bag. Okay. So make sure you link everything together. I'll say this over and over, and there'll be people, the teams that just won't do it. And I said include at a minimum make, model, and serial number on all the documentation. Have your report refer to that make, model, and serial number. Make sure your evidence bag has that make, model, and serial number. Make sure the chain of custody form has that make, model, and serial number. And make sure your report has the serial number of the chain of custody form and of the evidence bag. All right. Link all of this stuff together. Somebody won't do it. Even though you're graduate students, somebody won't do it. Okay. Now, when you write your report, you're going to write sentences that are within paragraphs. Okay. And you should put pictures to support the words that you have written in your sentences. Give me pictures within the text. Don't give me a picture book. Pictures or screenshots by themselves are not acceptable. Okay. Details must be written in sentences within paragraphs in the body of your report. After you've described an item in detail in sentences, you may also include a picture or screenshot to support the text you wrote in your sentences. Okay, for example, you have to indicate what the MD5 and SHA-1 hash values are. Well, don't just give me a picture of the screenshot of the MD5 and SHA-1 hash values. That's no good. You have to write in your sentences within the paragraphs that you obtain the MD5 and SHA-1 hash values. The MD5 value was this, and the SHA-1 hash value is this. And then after stating that in your written text, then below that or within that, you have the word wrap around it, however you do, have a screenshot to validate, to provide some support for the words that you had written. So a picture or screenshot by itself is not acceptable, and it does not count as information in the report. Okay, so you must describe the item within the text in sentences first, then you provide a picture or screenshot to add credibility to your written words. All right. Hope that's straightforward. Say that I'm likely to get some team give me a bunch of text, and then at the end give me a whole bunch of pictures, picture book, and I'll start marking things down like crazy on that. not acceptable. So look, are there any questions or comments, concerns about anything I've gone over so far?
Pretty
All good?
straightforward.
Okay, great. Well, let's look at some more about now how to do the lab one. So let me pull up the screen share and let's look, get this off the screen, and let's look at Canvas. Why? I think it will be this screen, and then I've got to come back over to Canvas here. All right, so here we are, September 24th, the data acquisition in case. Now this says the link to the Lab 1 lecture, watch this first. Well, this is the recording that I'm doing right now. So this is not visible for you at the moment. I've got it not published because once I finish this recording tonight, and it'll take about an hour or so after I'm done for this to render, then I will post this to Canvas, and it will be here so you can watch. So if you need to watch this lecture that I'm doing, that's what this part is. This is the PowerPoint slideshows that I just showed you. So you can see that. Now here is a link to a demonstration video. This is a link of me doing the lab. You need to watch that and you'll see exactly how I connect the equipment, how I bring up the EnCase software, which options I click on the EnCase software, how I identify the suspect's device, how I select it through a bitstream imaging process, how I determine to do an MD5 and SHA-1 hash analysis, and then how I complete the data acquisition process. All of that is in here. Now, when you click on this video link, it's going to ask you about your Microsoft. Well, first of all, you get this to open it. You click on this here. And now you're going to be requested to log into your Microsoft login. Well, this is my Cal Poly Pomona account. Click on that. I should be validated automatically right here. And that will bring you up to the shared folder. You might have noticed that I sent a link to you yesterday for a shared folder. Did everybody notice that? Did everybody see that the shared folder that I sent? Did everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Okay. If anybody did not get that link, please send me an email message and let me know. I tried to verify I had everybody in the class on there, but in case I missed somebody, if you didn't get the link, let me know. I'll make sure. So anyway, what you'll notice is that brings up these shared files, and one of the files, the one we're going to use first tonight, is this here. It's a MP4 file. It's a data acquisition demo. Now, I apologize, first of all, for this being relatively low quality. Let me explain. I'm not going to click on it now because we'll bring this thing up and watch it. You're going to get to be entertained by it when you do it. But when you click on that, it should launch the video. Let me go back over here to where I came from, back to these modules. Okay. Let me talk about this recording. I did this recording back during the COVID days, probably around 2020 or either spring or fall. I don't remember which semester it was. But at that time, Zoom didn't have the ability for me to record the lectures to the cloud. I had to record the lectures and store it to my own personal computer, which I did using the regular resolution that I typically do. Unfortunately, the file was so big that I couldn't upload it to any servers at the time. Okay, there were restrictions on the file size of what I could put up on Canvas or what storage we had available. So I had no way of uploading that large file. So I had to uh, trim down the resolution of that file to make it small enough where I could upload it. So it's a little bit grainy. I apologize for that. And it's a little bit dated because I did it during the COVID days when we could not come on the campus. But this is how we had to do the lab when we were restricted from the campus. And since the class tonight is a online class, not a face-to-face class, then this same method works. So anyway, you watch this link, and I'd suggest you watch it this evening, immediately after I'm through talking here, and see how to do the lab. Now, here are your lab one instructions. I'll go over that in just a minute. And as you put together your report, I put some pictures out there for your use. Here's a picture of the part of that physical storage device that I gave. Here's a picture of the evidence bag that I showed. Here's a picture of some hash values that you can use. Okay. Um, and then here is a listing of the teams. Let me go ahead and click on this. There are 8 teams, and all the teams have 4 members except for team 8, which has 5 members. Okay. But we have enough people. That's just the way it worked there. But you should find your name on there. If you don't see your name, please let me know. Um, and then you need to contact your teammates. Now, at first, it sounds a little bit easier that that you only have to write one report per team, but actually, it's harder. If I did the report, the lab exercise, so each person had to write their own report, you'd be able to do it with ease without much of a problem. But since you have to collaborate with your teammates, there's going to be arguments and disagreement and confusion about what you should put in and what you should leave out, what needs to be there, how you word something, and it's just going to make it more complex. But that's what this is all about. You have to, in the real world, work with other people. Doesn't matter if your personalities are good, get along well or not. You just have to get past that and do the work. That's how you get paid. I assign the teams rather than letting you assign them because in the real world, the manager assigns who you're going to work with. Okay. So that's part of that. It's I'm putting the little challenge in there of having to work with other people. Okay. Your name will be on the report, your signature, so you're on the hook for whatever is written, whether you wrote that section or not. Okay. So you write one report. The report's look at the schedule. It's due next week. By the way, since we're talking about next week is an exam week. All right. So there will be no class meeting next week. You don't have to listen to me lecture about anything next week. It's just sometime during the day on October 1st, you take the exam. Anytime after midnight, all the way up to 11:59 p.m. Okay. And once you enter the exam, you have to complete it. You can't close the exam and then come back into it to complete it. Okay. But and the exam's multiple guess questions. That's right. And you take it here on Canvas by clicking this link. Okay. By the way, good news on that exam. It's easy. It's very easy. After I made out the questions, I took it and I passed. So it's easy. Okay. Should be fine. All right. So next week, no class meeting, you just have the exam, but you do have to turn in your Lab 1 report sometime on or before next Wednesday. One person from your team needs to email it to me. Right. Now, here are the instructions for Lab 1. This is your case scenario, what the lab is all about. Here it is. Okay, excuse me, this says 481. This is 681. I did not correct my um, class number there. You're a forensic examiner assigned to a team of examiners responsible for performing a forensics data acquisition of the physical storage device obtained from a computer seized from the residence of the suspect, Gavin Newsom. Mr. Newsom is accused of committing numerous crimes, including but not limited to torture, attempted murder, bank robbery, misappropriation of public funds, fraud, kidnapping, tax evasion, felony evasion and escape, speeding, and numerous counts of traffic offenses. That's what he's accused of. All right. Now, hint, you don't need to summarize what the case is about in your cover letter. I know what the case is about. I hired you to work this case. All right. You need to indicate in your cover letter what you are tasked to do, which is the data acquisition of this Gavin Newsom case. Okay. Here is your overview. Your assignment is to prepare the evidence contained in a computer system unit for forensic analysis. It is essential that you follow proper methodology, which includes documentation and the verification of the authenticity of the images. Lastly, you must ensure that the integrity of the original evidence is maintained. You are not authorized to perform a data analysis at this time. However, you are to perform the forensic data acquisition with sufficient documentation so that another forensic examiner can analyze the data you have acquired. Now, here are some suggestions. suggest you identify the evidence. In other words, photograph it, video, and or document details pertaining to the evidence media. Remember, I gave you a picture of a physical storage device. Be sure to document every task you perform throughout the entire process. You'll find all those tasks that I did in that video. That's what you need to document. Ensure that the evidence is not altered. Make sure that nothing can be written to the storage media. Well, notice how I use a write blocker. Obtain a forensically sound bitstream image of the physical storage device and perform data acquisition using forensic software tools. Well, I do that in the video, so document it. Verify that the contents of each forensic image exactly matches the contents of the original evidence. Calculate MD5 and SHA-1 hash values for each forensic image. Compare it to the MD5 and SHA-1 hash values for each evidence item. Well, notice I do that in the video. Secure and maintain chain of custody for your evidence. Well, here you'll need to complete your chain of custody form. Okay. Submit a written report, one per team, that documents your work. Okay, be sure to identify the physical evidence, the chain of custody form number, and the evidence bag number within your forensics report. All right, so that is the lab instructions. Okay, are there any questions about the lab assignment, what you are to do?
Hello, Professor. Just to clarify with the pictures, I haven't seen the video yet, but would any screenshots from that video be fair game to maybe
Yeah.
use in the report? Okay,
Yes,
great.
any
Thank you.
screenshots from the video is fair game. That's a good question. I didn't indicate that before, but it is. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well that's it.
Far
I'm
as,
gonna
I'm
cut.
sorry, Professor. As far as the screenshots go, we can use your JPEGs that you uploaded onto Canvas, correct?
Yes, you can use these right here. Here's one HDD for the physical storage device, evidence bag, and hash values. You can use those. You'll need to make your own chain of custody form, though. I didn't put one out there for that. You've got to download that and fill in the information. Okay. Any other questions? Well, I'm going to be signing off here, so you guys can get with your teammates and start working on the lab and get this done. I would suggest you use the rest of the time this evening to watch the videos and start collaborating on how you're going to put the report together. And just remember to get it together for me by next Wednesday, and good luck on the exam. And if there's any other questions, I'll try to address them now. Otherwise, I'll sign off and let you guys work on it. No other questions? All right. Well, good luck
Sure.
on it. Hope you enjoy it, even though you're doing it virtually. I hope you have more fun with this than you will listen to a lecture. Okay?
Thank you.
Professor, I have a quick question. Sorry.
Sure.
It's regarding the shared folder that you sent out via
Yes.
email. When I opened it, it doesn't have any contents inside. Any.
Okay. Well, let me try it again and see if I can see if I can get it to work. I did test it, but let's just see if it works again. Well, maybe it won't work if people are watching. Maybe the thing's bashful, but let's see. I'll click on here, click on this. It comes up to here. I click on the demo. Well, that's no good. I just clicked on it last night.
Yeah,
Let
that's what
me,
I see when I open it.
yeah, let me come back to here. Come back to here rather. Go back. And that was up here. Let me check. I just tested that. Uh, Give me a second. Let me check something else. Go over here. Come here. Well, that's odd. Procedure. I will take pretty much all the entire session to do that. Someone posed a question, if you'll find out. So it's there. Let me see if I can fix this. There's a link must be broken. So give me a couple minutes to fix this, and I'll go ahead and sign off and work on this. It should be up momentarily. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, let me fix that link. Say it should be available in just a couple of minutes. Any other questions before I sign off? All right. Well, that's all I've got. And good luck on this. Good luck on the exam. And I'll fix the link now. So long, everyone.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Professor.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.